Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Girls Who Like Hoops podcast. First of all, I want to thank you guys so much for getting me to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're now past like the 1,000 mark. And I'm so grateful. My goal, really, let me actually start. I'm going to be a little sappy, but I'm going to first say, please like, subscribe, get in the comments, and please keep it respectful. We're going to talk about some things this week, and I just don't feel like jumping through the hoops of certain things. So keep it cute. If you don't, I read the comments and I respond to as many as I can, but also I don't have like the notifications on my phone. And I don't really check my analytics that much, which is why I was so surprised that last week's episode did so well, which was honestly shocking. Like, I have an average, amount of listeners that I have typically, and sometimes, I exceed that expectation. Sometimes I don't quite achieve it, and it's kind of just like a boundary thing for me. I try not to, have my comments on, I need to be in the right headspace to receive certain things. So, yeah. But we are going to talk about that play a little bit later. But like I said, I need you to keep it respectful and cute because I will delete the comment. And I just don't really take well to, the disrespect or harassment of Black women. And we're going to further discuss that moving forward. But I did want to go ahead and start it off by saying, thank you guys so much for your continued support. Also to the audio listeners, I see you and I appreciate you. And please feel free to follow on whatever you're listening to this on to stay up to date on new episodes. They're out every Friday. This one's a little bit late because I was taking a pre-recording nap, but I got a little, it turned into full sleep. I got the full 9-10 hours, but I'm well rested and I'm super excited to come on here. And I really wanted to come on here with really great energy as well. So really excited to do this. We have a lot of games to cover, but I'm just really grateful for, the community that's been built here, as well as the community that's been built on TikTok and on Twitter with the unbiased and unbothered streams that we do on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. I'm just completely overwhelmed with gratitude, and I feel like I don't even really have the words to properly express how grateful I am. And I know that 1,000 might not be the biggest number to other people, but I started when I was 15 making vlogs on this YouTube page, and I would just do it almost every day after school. And it became a thing where people were kind of expecting them, oh, when's the vlog gonna be up? And it was just a really fun thing. And sometimes I even go back now and I watch some of them and I'm just it may not have been the greatest thing ever created in the world, but it was definitely my introduction to creating something from nothing. And that has really meant a lot to me and continues to mean a lot to me. And I've done, I had this other podcast, In Distress, that is currently in a hiatus state, but that was one of the first podcasts that I had ever made. And that's something that's very important to me. And then I have this, and it's kind of just everything that I do is kind of just building up on the last thing. I'm learning what went right and what went wrong. And obviously I went to school, social media marketing, all this stuff, and I use all of those things to kind of make this happen. And I just appreciate the support that I've gotten. And I'm so happy to have the newcomers, and also at the same time I'm very appreciative and grateful for the people who have been here for a few years and have supported me through some things, some of my lowest moments, and showing me kindness and just giving me a lot of support when I needed it the most. So thank you guys so much for that. And I'll stop getting sappy now, but yeah, I'm gonna post and link the post that I made in the description below. But we have a lot of basketball to cover and we have a lot of things to discuss, so many things. And so let's just get into it. Let's get into player of the week. I'm not gonna lie, this one was kind of tough because I feel like I've seen some good basketball. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from some of these teams so far. But player of the week is Marina Mabrey, and here's the thing. I know maybe last week or the week before that, or sometime this season, I was kind of Marina not playing ethical hoops. And if I'm being real, I still stand by what I said at the time. But when I'm presented with new information, I can change my opinion. And I think that we should all be open to that thought, always. But Marina has really moved me this week. It wasn't just the 53-point game. to tie the league high with Asia and Liz Camp-Beige. But it was also the game versus the Dream. And I just feel like she's stepping up as a leader. And, ever since Brittany Sykes went down, and really they haven't even really been healthy the entire time. But this week in particular, I have been very moved by Marina's performances. Even, when they've lost some games. I get it. I see the vision, and I think Marina Mabrey should be an all-star, and we should all be putting her on our ballots. If not, just the one time. You know what I'm saying? Do it for Marina Mabrey because she did it for us. It was a really great basketball game for Marina. I'm not going to say it was a great basketball game altogether. The Sparks will be getting lashings coming up later on, but Marina Mabrey, player of the week, and it's so deserved. Who won the week? Honorable mention to the Toronto Tempo. I feel like they have really just impressed me this week. Obviously, like I said, I've seen a lot of leadership from Marina, and that's been great and excellent. But the team as a whole is just, they figured it out. And they look good. They play well. I like the determination for this team as well. And I just feel like they deserve to be mentioned this week. I was going to put them down, but I decided to give it to the Mystics because the Mystics, they looked rough. They did. They lost to the Liberty, and that game was actually very hard to watch, that first game. And then this week, they went to New York, and they were able to change the narrative. Obviously they had Kiki back, but the performance that I saw from them was absolutely phenomenal. And then also on top of that, I feel like they're just like, they're sharing the ball better. I think the coach is making like some decent adjustments. Their game management seems to be a bit better. Outside of beating the Liberty this week, they were able to go to Minnesota and take a win on the Lynx home court. And that's the number one team in the league right now, rated number one defense and all these things. And so the fact that they were able to come back and do that, even though they weren't able to seal the deal in like their second game versus the Lynx, I was just very impressed by this team this week. So that's who got it. Right now, some notable league moves and injuries. I just have two. The Lynx waived Tierra McCown, and after that game versus the Mystics in DC, I feel like that was the right decision. There were just a couple of possessions where it felt like she wasn't really trying. And it's just never going to be acceptable, especially on this team. And I don't know, obviously I wish her the best of luck moving forward. But I think that this was the right move. And, as a Lynx fan, I'm hoping that Dorka or Nafisa will be returning soon because the Lynx are kind of hitting a wall a bit with the team that's presently constructed. And, obviously they've exceeded expectations, but, we need the heavy hitters back. And it'll just be so much better, once you have Ania Coffee coming off the bench and a Dorka coming off the bench. I think it's going to be really great. And even outside of they just had some tough luck with some of their front court options, being injured and stuff like that and trying to replace them in the season. So, obviously, like I said, Tierra, good luck to you, sister. Lynx, we need to lock in. Anyways, lastly, Kelsey Plum, she had like a lower leg injury, and they said that she was going to be out for, I don't even know how long they said. I think they said like 4 weeks or something. But the Sparks they're cooked low key. It's not even low key. The Sparks look terrible. Even that game with the Valkyries like a week ago, and when Kelsey was kind of held to 9 points or something like that, and she ended up fouling out. This team just, like this was actually the last thing they needed. But I now am very interested in how Lynn Roberts responds to this, right? They had a game versus the Tempo the other day, and I don't even really know how to describe how they looked. Just like absolutely demoralized at certain points in the game. And I don't really know how this gets better from here. But I do think that whether or not Lynn Roberts keeps her job moving forward will be about how she's able to get this team going in the moves that are made while Kelsey Plum is out. And even when Kelsey is there, I'm interested to see what happens from here. I hope that KP, she has a speedy recovery and everything goes well for her. And, hopefully she'll be able to be back with the team soon. But, wow, the sparks, man. It's going to be very interesting. Discourse of the week, the play, the suspension. I'm only going to talk about this briefly just because I just don't personally think that there's a productive conversation to be had here, if I'm completely honest. And I don't think that there are a lot of people who are like capable of having like an honest conversation about it, and one that is also respectful. So I won't really talk about the play itself. I will say that, the league gave out the consequence, and that was the suspension for Alyssa Thomas for a game. I think that I'm more so like I'm very like confused, because it became about like, you need to protect this player. And so the league went back and watched the video and they gave her the suspension. And like, okay, consequence was met for the action. But now it kind of feels like somehow still that's not enough for people. And that's the part that I struggle with, right? Like, I won't deny that the foul looked bad. And I was watching the game live and it didn't look, because we didn't get that angle that, has been slowed down and all this stuff. And there have been screenshots and blah, 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 blah. And I'm not really going to get into that. It looked bad. Point blank, period. I can admit that that was not a basketball play. And at the same time, that play doesn't warrant and will never excuse the harassment that Alyssa Thomas and other Black players have experienced on the opposite end of whatever has happened in the past, presently, or in the future with Caitlin. Like, that's not okay. And anyone who is defending or furthering the harassment of Black players and of Black people, to me, is a racist bum, and they're just using these situations to get their agendas off, and that is just not okay, and there should be no space for that anywhere. But it absolutely will not be something that I will allow to happen on my social media pages, here on Twitter, on TikTok, whatever it happens to be, because at the end of the day, we can unplug and we can like move away from this. These players are experiencing this beyond their real life. They're getting death threats, they're getting racial slurs thrown at them, like, and they can't, you don't get to walk away from that. The league gave their consequence, and now people need to leave that where it's at. Like, it's just like, I hate that even like some of these media heads, or like people who have access to mics, will come on the internet and just say the craziest things about Alyssa Thomas. Or we've seen this happen before with Dejanay Carrington and a multitude of other people, and it's always just like throwing them to the wolves. And that is so uncool, especially when it's people who don't even cover the WNBA, who don't take it seriously, who aren't watching the games, who can't even name 25 to 30 players in the league. Like, I just think it's inexcusable and it's disgusting. And that's what this is coming down to for me. There's a difference between holding players accountable for something and like a witch hunt. I will say that I have been on the other end of Alyssa Thomas getting a little physical during basketball games. Like, the best player on my favorite team went down last year because of it. And I 100% think that it's on the refs to officiate her physicality so that stuff like this doesn't happen and that things don't get to this point. And again, nothing but like me saying that is a completely separate thing from like the harassment and everything that gets thrown at Alyssa Thomas and other Black players. It's not okay, and the league needs to start protecting these Black players as well. I'm just like, there's a lot of nuance to the conversation that I don't feel like getting into, but it begins and ends there for me, that there's a difference between holding players accountable for what happened, and once that consequence is given to them, you need to leave it alone. I'm not behind that at all. There's a way to say that the league needs to be better and that the refs need to be better without doing that. And that's it. That's where I'm leaving it. You can have your thoughts and opinions on it. Again, I ask you, if you do talk about the foul or the play, in the comments to keep it respectful, but that's where I'm personally leaving it. All right, now let's get into the basketball. On Friday, there were 3 games. The first, Tempo versus Sun. The Tempo beat the Sun 101-97. This was actually a very great game. The Sun won the rebounding battle, but the Tempo shared the ball a bit better. They ended the game with 27 assists to the Sun's 21. The Sun scored 20 points off the Tempo's 15 turnovers, but weren't able to pull off the win. I have notes, apparently. Where are these notes at? Oh, here they are. Okay. For the Sun versus Tempo game, Marina really won me over. I feel like she's doing everything that you need her to do and more. Obviously, I give that acknowledgement to Sandy Brondello and Marina have just been really great leaders, communicating what they need to do and how they need to come out intense. And the other players, they're executing that very well. The Sun had a strong second quarter. They were 50-37 to close the half, but after the half, the Tempo came out hooping. They were playing well, facilitating and attacking the paint. And Olivia Ododa for the Sun had some great looks that got her to the free throw line. But unfortunately, in the fourth, Marina answered the call. She was shooting threes and getting in the paint. She was cutting to the rim, just some phenomenal basketball. The Tempo only had 9 players, and I was very pleased with every single player that played. Timmy was stretching the floor nicely. Izzy Harrison, Laura Euskaida, Julie Alamon, they were out there getting stops and just playing very well, and they just had a phenomenal quarter, and they were able to pull out the win. But I do want to say that the Sun, they were playing some really great basketball. They looked connected, and they were taking decent shots most of the time. They just weren't able to close that one, but they should definitely be proud of, everything that they were able to do this game. And I think this put them in a really great position for the game versus the Sky later on this week, where, they were just able to put, 4 quarters of great basketball together. For the Tempo, Marina gave you 37 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, was 14 of 24 from the field, 9 of 12 from 3. Timmy Fagbinley gave you 19 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, and was 8 of 9 from the field. Very efficient night for her. Maria Conde gave you 19 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and was 5 of 8 from 3. And Izzy Harrison was able to give you 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. For the Sun, Kennedy Burke had a great night. And I'm honestly really enjoying seeing the post players for the Sun. They're all healthy now, and watching them play together has been really phenomenal. I think Anissa Morrow's out right now with an injury, but Kennedy Burke gave you 18 points, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, and was 5 of 9 from the field. Brittany Griner gave you 16 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, and was 7 of 11 from the field. LaCon gave you 16 points, 3 assists, and Olivia Ododa, who has been playing really great this week, and I hope that can continue moving forward. I'd love to see her maybe in a most improved player conversation, but she gave you 13 points, 3 rebounds, and was 6 of 9 from the field. Next game, we have Mystics versus Liberty. The Mystics beat the Liberty 86-83. This was Kiki's return, and honestly, the Mystics just look much better, a lot more fluid with her on the floor this time around. The Mystics beat New York in the paint 48 points to 36. Stewie was in foul trouble to close the third quarter, so I think that was really helpful for them in terms of, what they were able to do and get done attacking the paint. I hear a lot of people kind of talking about the Mystics point guard situation, and, I'm still 50-50 on it. I really like Georgia Amore, and I think, she is an undersized guard, but she's figuring it out slowly. And there are some times where she is passing the ball. People are just selling her assist. But outside of that, I just feel like the offense is flowing well. They're looking more connected. And they, like I said, they looked much better this week than they did last week. And, we're kind of seeing the version of them that started the beginning of the season. And I'm pleased with it, honestly. I get what people are saying about a vet presence at the point guard spot, but I don't really know that there are too many like notable point guard vets anywhere right now. Maybe like a Ty Harris or something. Maybe they could think about like getting her, but I don't really know if the coach wants to trade for anything. He seems very like bought in on, this young core and figuring that chemistry out. And honestly, like rightfully so. Like the more games that I see from them, the more I'm impressed. And, obviously they're still a young team. So there will always be like room, or there will be games, where some people struggle and others don't, or, vice versa. Everybody has, their nights, and they're all learning and they're young. But I like what I'm seeing so far. For the Mystics, Kiki gave you 20 points, 6 rebounds, and was 8 of 14 from the field. Sonia Citron gave you 16 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, and was 5 of 11 from the field. Very efficient night for her. Sonia gave you 16 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, and was 5 of 11 from the field. Shakira Austin gave you 14 points, 7 rebounds, and was 4 of 8 from the field. A much better showing to me this time around than the last time they played the Liberty. Michaela Onyenwere gave you 11 points and 2 rebounds, and Georgia Amor gave you 10 points and 8 assists. For the Liberty, Leone Fibish gave you 19 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and was 6 of 9 from the field. Brianna Stewart gave you 16 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks, and was 5 of 11 from the field. Satu gave you 13 points, 4 of 8 from the field, and Jonquel Jones gave you 10 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, and was 4 of 8 from the field. And we will have a discussion about Sabrina maybe later. I'm still deciding if I want to have that conversation or not, but she is coming back from injury, so I'm trying to give her some grace. I might give her like 2 or 3 weeks to, kind of figure it out. I'm just like, I'm a bit confused by her role on the team, especially after last year. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later, because I think, there's something to be said about Brianna Stewart and this team being able to win with and without her. So we'll discuss that a little bit later. Next, we have Lynx versus Valkyries. The Lynx beat the Valkyries 81-75. The Valks just did a great job taking away Olivia's easy shots around the rim. And this is actually kind of one of the first games where I wanted her to try some different things outside of like her and Sue Bird kind of talked about her layup and it being like the pizza pie, where she kind of just delivers it up here. And I don't know. I just feel like, well, obviously, like I said, this was the first game where it was kind of taken away from her. And then I think the Mystics watched the footage and then they were able to replicate that, especially because, they have so much skilled size in the paint. And I don't know. I would really like to see her kind of deepen her bag a little bit. But also when I had said this to like this Discord that I'm in, they were like, yeah, like she usually gets the foul call though. But it's also like, well, what if she doesn't get the foul call? What then? And I think we're kind of seeing what then. I don't know. I think for Olivia, I would kind of like to see her, kind of change up the release style on it. And I think, that would obviously like, that would be a good counter. But also I think, I don't mind the shot. And like, if she has it and if she's beating her defender, on her first step, because she doesn't have a quick first step, it's just like, when there are skilled post players in there, if you're facing a notable defense like the Golden State Valkyries, it's kind of like, what are the counters, and what kind of shots are we taking and how are we getting her open? And I think that, again, this is going to be something that gets figured out a bit once Nafisa comes back and she has, some gravity there, and it's going to make it easier for everybody, because Courtney's also been struggling a bit this week shooting. And I don't know, I'm very interested in what happens here further. I will say, she's kind of struggled with some turnovers this week as well, but she's doing some good things down the stretch on defense. So even when she isn't having like an exceptional offensive game, or maybe she's turning the ball over a lot, I do like, her heart and hustle when it comes to defense. And I can, you can tell that she's taking pride in it. And I appreciate that and like that. So shout out to Olivia Miles, but this is a good win. This is a good win. Natasha Howard fouled out this game, and Ola Kosu, she came in and she honestly gave some really great minutes. I think it's very rare for somebody her age to be able to come in the game in clutch time and, not sell. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, I don't even think she scored any points this game, but it's still just about being able to go in there in those high intensity moments and being able to do something, on the floor and help out your team. And I think that she's done that very well. And there have been a lot of opportunities where she's needed to come in and be that for this team, because Natasha Howard and Nia Coffey have been in foul trouble. And we know that the front court of the Lynx is pretty diminished right now. So I think, I'm really excited to see her development as she continues on this season. And I hope that we're able to continue seeing her moving forward. I know that, once Nafisa's back and Dorka and everything, but I'm hoping that there's going to be some matchups moving forward where, she can still get some reps in, because she's been great for this team. And I really also, I wanted to note that I feel like, the coaching staff must really trust her, to put her in there over somebody who does have a little bit more experience, like a Tierra McCown. That trust in having that in her so young has been amazing and phenomenal. And, I wish her nothing but the best moving forward. And, the Lynx bench, the team, they really seem to, believe in her. And I think that that's just really great and amazing. And I just love this team, man. I just love this team. And then for our stats, the Lynx beat the Valkyries on the board 42-38, so pretty evenly matched in there. But they also beat them in paint points, which is something that the Valkyries kind of struggled with throughout the course of the week. But they beat them 38-22 in the paint. For the Lynx, Nia Coffey had a great game. She gave you 22 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and was 7 of 11 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3. Courtney Williams gave you 21 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, and was 6 of 16 from the field. She kind of struggled and has been struggling this week, but that's still a solid performance. Kayla McBride gave you 17 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and was 7 of 12 from the field. Natasha Howard gave you 10 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and was 5 of 10 from the field. And Olivia Miles gave you 7 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. For the Valkyries, I think when this team is shooting well, they're a force to be reckoned with, and they're definitely one of the top teams in the league. But when they cool down, and that does happen, usually around the third quarter, which this team is sometimes they're so copy and paste of the Golden State Warriors to me. I love the Warriors. I'm actually wearing a Golden State Warriors shirt right now. But, there's just the things that I love about Golden State, the men's team, are some of the same things that I enjoy about the Valkyries, but they also have the same weaknesses in terms of and really it's still different, because you do have a Steph Curry on the Golden State Warriors, and at the same time, for the Valkyries, you do have players who can shoot the 3 well, but it's just not really super consistent, and you can kind of see the issue with being a team that relies so heavily on 3s. But so many teams rely on that now that it'll just really hurt you. And I like the Valkyries, and somebody I think said the other day they think that they're a piece away from something, and I don't know. I feel maybe they are a piece away, but they still need their shooters to be consistent regularly. And I think it just comes down to that for me. And then I think I'll be ready to talk about them in championship contention. But as of right now, they're still just a team that, and this is again, no shade, because I do like the team. They are still just a team that plays really hard defense and can go out there and win any night. But at the end of the day, they do struggle against some of the top teams in the league. And we saw that later on this week with the Aces. But for the stats, this game was still close despite them shooting rough towards the end of the game. But Cecilia Zandalasini, man. The game was still close despite, them having a bit of a rough spot in terms of knocking down shots. But Cecilia Zandalasini is an amazing player, amazing shooter. She gave you 23 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and was 7 of 15 from the field. Janelle Salon gave you 15 points, 6 rebounds, and was 6 of 16 from the field, 3 of 11 from 3. Not super great, but still, was a part of contributing to, an honestly decent offensive night and Gabby Williams gave you 15 points and 8 rebounds. On Saturday, there were 3 games. The first, Fever versus Dream. This was a really exciting game for me. I had missed the previous Fever versus Dream game, and I wasn't gonna cover it on this episode, so I was like, I won't even go back and watch it. But I got the idea. First of all, the commentating for this game was questionable, to say the least. I'm not saying, like, it's just like you can always kind of tell when some announcers kind of lean towards one way or the other, and that I don't like that. I don't love it. It's kind of like almost unbearable. I thought about putting the game on mute, but I don't really like watching games without the sound on. It throws me. It's really hard for me to focus and lock in and really, care. Sometimes I kind of need somebody to lock me back in, guide me, but they weren't really guiding. It was a lot of glazing. But I'm biased. So who am I? But Naz Hillman started the game out aggressively, set the tone early. I really enjoyed this from her, especially because she did struggle towards the beginning of the season a bit. And, this is a really great game for her to kind of find her rhythm, but also to impact the game the way that we've seen her do here and also in Unrivaled. The Fever, I don't know. I feel like them in these leads, I talked about this last week. It just sometimes feel like they're just incapable of keeping the leads. And like I've said before, they close games really well, but they have got to be better in that area. And a lot of times, like I've said before, it's led to more wins than losses. But being able to put games away early is a winning trait for me. And they just make things a bit hard on themselves at times, Obviously, when they win games and they win by a lot, it's great and amazing. But, at the end of the day, sometimes you do just need to be able to put the game away and win it. So I hope to see them continue to work on that. It was a close game at the half, but after halftime, the Dream outscored the Fever and put the finishing touches on the win. The Dream went on a 30-9 run, 3 minutes into the third quarter, and then they went on an 18-6 run in the fourth quarter to seal the win. Leah Boston and Monique Billings were in foul trouble early in the third, and so naturally, playing without Aaliyah Boston, that's always kind of going to hurt you a little bit. So I'm hoping that, she can kind of work on that and figure that out, because she had been playing really exceptional basketball in Unrivaled and even to start the season, but I think this week she's kind of struggled a bit. But Atlanta had an all-around better game than the Fever. They beat them in the paint 54-34 and on fast break points 20-2. The Fever struggled to take care of the ball, ending the game with 19 turnovers. I'm just on the side, while the Dream had a great game, I am still a bit concerned with the production for the bench when it comes to the Dream. I feel like they definitely need more from them, but I don't know. I think it might be different and better once Bree Jones is back, because then you do have Naz Hillman coming off of the bench. But I don't know. And maybe, that would really help that second unit a little bit. But they have been struggling, and, the Dream starters have been playing heavy minutes, which is fine. But I think long term, when we're thinking about it, you do want to be able to have a spark off the bench. And Medina Okot, while she won't be mentioned this game, she will be mentioned later, and she's been phenomenal off the bench as well. So, I'm hoping that with Medina and with Naz coming off the bench later on, that's going to solve some of the issues. But, kind of running your starters into the ground early is a bit concerning for me, and especially when it comes to closer games like the one last week versus the Sky, where a lot of the starters had to play 30 plus minutes. So a little bit concerning, but we'll put a pin in that, and we'll, keep tabs on that moving forward. For the Fever, Caitlin gave you 26 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds, and was 11 of 18 from the field. Kelsey Mitchell gave you 16 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and she struggled from the field, so I'm not even going to put her low numbers up. I also did the same thing for Aaliyah Boston. Aaliyah Boston gave you 13 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and Sophie Cunningham gave you 13 points. For the Dream, Ryan Howard had a great night. She gave you 24 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Alicia Gray gave you 22 points, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, and was 9 of 18 from the field. Naz Hillman gave you 19 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and was 8 of 13 from the field. Angel gave you 18 points, 8 rebounds, 2 steals, and was 7 of 14 from the field. And Jordan Canada gave you 12 points, 12 assists, 7 rebounds, 3 steals, and was 5 of 9 from the field. Really great showing from the Dream this game. And, hopefully in the weeks moving forward, we'll be able to, see them duplicate that kind of success. But also, the hope is that they don't always have to, put on those huge performances like that, and there will be some relief off the bench. Next, we have Storm versus Mercury. The Mercury pulled out the win, 93-73. The Storm came out aggressive to start the first quarter, and they were hanging in there. But ultimately, they just weren't able to continue keeping up with that level of intensity throughout the game. The Mercury went on a 29-9 run to close the deficit in the first half, and that continued after halftime when they ran away with the game in the third, going on an 18-2 run. The Storm struggled to defend without fouling and to shoot from the field, and the Mercury just beat them on the boards 39-29. They also shared the ball well, finishing the game with 26 assists. I'm very, obviously, we said that thing about anybody can win on any given night, but also the Storm are such a young team and they have had really great showings. This game, they kind of just dropped the ball in the third quarter. And I still at times don't really know if that's more on the coach or if that's because of the youth. This was a very different game than the typical sample size from them. Usually it's that they played hard and they just weren't able to close the game, but this time it was more that they weren't able to match that level of intensity. And it's strange because the Mercury aren't that great of a team, but they are still, veterans, and they are a team that can knock down shots and can be a threat for people. So I don't know, I don't take too much stock in this win for the Mercury. This is great for them. Y'all know I don't like the Mercury, so I let them stay. I stay on this side. But yeah, I don't really know too much what to make of this, obviously, as well, because of their stinker in the first game of the Mercury versus Fever situation. And then, they were able to come back and play better, but I'm just still not bought into the Mercury. And, they are working with a limited roster right now. I think they only have 9 players as well. It's just, I don't know, but like I told you, I'm never going to give nobody a 10 over there. I'm never going to give nobody a 10. Anyways, for the Storm, Natisha Heidemann gave you 20 points, 4 assists, and was 6 of 9 from the field. Dominique Malonga gave you 10 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Zaya Cook gave you 10 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and Flage gave you 13 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 blocks. For the Mercury, Ayayi, I hope I said her name right, okay? I've been listening to the name, and I Googled it last night. I'm pretty sure I got it. But Ayayi gave you 18 points, 10 rebounds, and was 4 of 7 from the field. Kalia Copper gave you 17 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. Broshan gave you 16 points, 10 assists, and was 6 of 7 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3. Very efficient night from her. And I think I said last week, I'd like to see more of her. And I hope that she's able to continue playing to this level because to me, she's been great. Ka has been great this week, and Ayayi has been great. So if they're able to put that together, and then, you have Sammy Whitcomb come back, and she was phenomenal last year. I have no reason to believe that she wouldn't be just as great coming back this year. I do think that they miss Catherine Westbeld and, some other players. And I believe Natasha Mack got hurt after this game. So they're really kind of struggling with their health and everything, but they're attempting to put some things together, and I can be empathetic to that, I suppose. Natasha Mack gave you 10 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 assists. Last game we had from Saturday was Sky versus Wings. The Wings defeated the Sky 93-92. Really fun game. It came down to the wire, very competitive back and forth in terms of responding to runs, but the Wings were the ones who took the win. Chicago won the battle in the paint 48-38 and on the boards 43-35. And I'm in, chats with a lot of Wings fans, and I know a lot of times they note that the Wings defense isn't that great and that the post players kind of struggle and need to be more aggressive. And, that's why they really need Alana Smith to, you know, figure out the situation. And I honestly feel very bad because I believe this is the game where she got a concussion again. I think somebody hit her she got hit in the nose or like the face or something, and she's been out on concussion protocol, which is like really unfortunate because the minutes that she was in this game, she was very disruptive. And that's just like really unfortunate. But the Wings went on a 21-7 run to help get within striking distance. And in the Sky versus Wings game, Jessica Shepard was very questionable to open the game on both ends of the floor. She did not play very good defense on Camilla. I'm rephrasing what I had put in my notes because I said terrible defense. That's my fault. I did a little too much. Camilla played very aggressive to start the game, and I just really like what I'm seeing from her so far. I really liked Alana coming in and impacting the defense. She got Cardoso off the floor and in foul trouble very early on in the game. And I really loved and have loved AZ's aggression on defense. The Wings struggled to defend without fouling in the first quarter. And, the Sky were winning. They were, honestly, the Sky were taking it the entire time until, the end. In the second quarter, the Wings were able to cut into the lead. The Sky started the quarter shooting 0 of 5 from the field. Paige, AZ, Arike, Maddie in a walk lineup put some great sequences together, and the Sky just struggled to knock down some shots. I think also, like during the second quarter, Paige facilitating definitely helped them, with that momentum swing. The Wings shot the ball from 3 well in the first half, but struggled with 2-point shots. And the Sky did the opposite. So they were shooting well from like the mid-range and in the paint, but they were not shooting well from the 3. Lee also went in the second quarter and struggled defending Camilla. Camilla was kind of just getting a lot of the things that she wanted. And, it was just really tough for them to defend her. In the third quarter, a walk was in some foul trouble, so she had to take a seat. But Gabriela Jaquez played some great D for the Sky and had some good steals to open the quarter. The Sky just really got out in transition and were able to get to the free throw line. And then for the Wings in the third quarter, there were a lot of turnovers. The Wings were down 14 at one point. So, they had kind of dug themselves a big hole. And in the fourth, though, they were able to respond. AZ played well. The Sky struggled to close the game, and the Wings went on a run. In the fourth quarter, the Sky just had a lot of like fouls and turnovers, poor shot selection, and this was a pretty tough game to lose, especially after they had started so well. The Sky were up 4 with 35 seconds left in the fourth quarter, and Camilla fouled out. Paige ended up, hitting some shots and was able to get it done in overtime. But really great game from the Wings. The Sky, obviously, they have things to work on, and they were finally able to get a win after, a little losing streak. And I'm interested to see, if they're able to keep this up and continue on. I know that Courtney Vandersloot is going to be coming back. I'm interested to see, with Skylar and maybe Natasha a little bit more off ball, what, those opportunities look like for them and what this team looks like moving forward. For the Sky, Camilla gave you 26 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks, and she was 10 of 13 from the field. Sydney Taylor fouled out as well, but gave you 18 points, 2 rebounds, and was 6 of 13 from the field. Skylar Diggins gave you 14 points, 6 assists, 3 steals. Natasha Cloud gave you 10 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and Azare Stevens gave you 8 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. Again, this is like one of those games where like everybody chips in. But again, them closing games has just been really difficult. And I do think that Courtney will be helpful in terms of that. She has that experience, and, she's a point guard who's won, and, she knows what it takes to win. And so she has great court vision and high ball IQ. So we're going to see how that goes for them. But, tough loss for them. For the Wings, Jessica Shepard gave you 21 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and was 7 of 14 from the field. Paige gave you 19 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and was 7 of 16 from the field. AZ gave you 13 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 blocks, and was 5 of 13 from the field. And Arike gave you 12 points and 3 rebounds. On Sunday, there were 3 games. The first, Valkyries versus Aces. The Aces were able to pull out the win, 92-73. The Valkyries struggled to guard Alyssa earlier in the game. And, I think the Aces are just such a great team. Obviously they're the defending champs and they've won like 3 championships, but the Aces can just go out there and they can score and give it to you anyway. And I think that's what separated both of these teams by the end of the first half. The Valkyries have size, but they struggle to defend the paint, and the shooting was a bit rough for them. Offensive variety is something that I felt like they lacked this game, and because of that, I think, that's how they started losing and they were just never able to get back in it. The Aces also outpaced Golden State, which most teams struggle to do. It's usually that the Valkyries can keep up with a team, or vice versa, a team can keep up with the Valkyries. It's just about taking good shots and ball movement and everything and really stretching out their defense. But the Valkyries are still just a team, like I said before, that struggle against top teams, and they have positive games, of course, and they never lack effort. It's really just comes down to their offense, and they were just never able to match that offensive intensity that the Aces had outside of the fourth quarter. But by then the Aces had put in their bench and stuff. So the Aces beat the Valkyries in the paint. Oh God. Okay. The Aces beat the Valkyrie in the paint 46-28. They shared the ball better, finishing the game with 21 assists to the Valkyries 10. For the stats, the Valkyries, Chechizanda Lassini gave you 12 points, 3 rebounds, and was 6 of 9 from the field. Caitlin Chin came in off the bench and was a real bright spot in this game. She gave you 11 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists. And Letitia and me here gave you 10 points, 3 rebounds, and was 3 of 5 from the field. The rest of, the team kind of just they either gave you 3 points or 7. And obviously that's never going to be enough to combat the stats that I'm about to tell you for the Aces. Jackie Young gave you 21 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, and was 9 of 12 from the field. Asia gave you 19 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and was 7 of 13 from the field. Chelsea Gray gave you 15 points, 9 assists, 2 rebounds, and was 5 of 7 from the field. Jewel Lloyd gave you 14 points, 3 rebounds, and was 5 of 7 from the field. And Alyssa Smith gave you 14 points, 3 rebounds, and was 6 of 7 from the field. Next game we have Mystics versus Lynx. It's a really tough game. Father's Day. I wasn't even watching basketball games, but I was keeping tabs here and there. And I was checking the score, and I watched the last quarter, and then obviously I went back and watched the game. And I was honestly in shock while the game was on. I was there's no way they're giving up, this game like this. And it was just a lot of just silly mistakes and turnovers and stuff like that. And, like I said before, I think the Lynx are really kind of hitting their ceiling with, the roster as presently constructed, kind of having a weaker front court. So definitely needing, that size back, and interested to see what the team looks like. Obviously, it's going to take some time to gel and get their chemistry together, because realistically, they haven't played outside of practice or something. Nafisa and Dorka haven't really played with everyone, and especially, in-game passes are just so different than just practicing. So very interested to see what continues going on further for them. The Mystics beat the Lynx 84-79. And the Mystics just outscored the Lynx in the second half. The Lynx were definitely in control a little bit more, but the Mystics, they kind of hang around, and they're kind of they're very young. They're kind of pests, and, they can get out in transition, and they can, really make you work for it. And I think they did a great job of doing that. In the game on Sunday, Nia Coffey was in foul trouble in both games, but this game in particular, I feel she's a defensive anchor, and they really need her out there, especially at a time like this. The Lynx were just really kind of throwing some of their possessions away, and the closing 2 minutes were just, it was they just completely unraveled. I felt Olivia's shot selection to close the game was a bit questionable in this game and in the one later on this week. And then, obviously the Mystics, like I said, they've been great so far this week. I think Cody McMahon is very interesting. Sometimes she's like the best version of herself. And obviously, like, sometimes, she struggles, and that's just the road of like being a rookie and everything. So I'm interested to see, how that continues further. But I'm also interested to see how these teams, defend her. She's a guard, but she has like a very solid build. So, and a lot of times, even when she's taking contact in the paint and stuff, like, she's able to finish and she's able to have her way, especially when it comes to like driving in the paint and finishing around the rim. So interested to see, how she continues to develop and become more consistent moving forward. Sometimes Cody is an enemy for me sometimes, and sometimes she's really great. So we'll see how that continues to go. For the stats, the Mystics, Sonia Citron gave you 21 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and was 6 of 13 from the field. Kiki Ariafin gave you 17 points, 7 rebounds, and was 6 of 11 from the field. And Cody McMahon gave you 15 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and was 5 of 9 from the field. For the Lynx, For the Lynx, Miles, Howard, and McBride had 5 fouls by the end of the game. Olivia gave you 22 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, had 2 blocks, and was 9 of 18 from the field. Natasha Howard gave you 20 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 steals, and was 9 of 15 from the field. Courtney gave you 13 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. Really struggled from the field from this game, and you can kind of tell and kind of feel that. I hope that she's able to figure that situation out coming soon. But like I said before, Nafisa is going to change all of this, so I'm very excited. And then Nia Coffey, not a crazy offensive game for her, but I really love her impact on the game when her shot isn't falling. She had 4 blocks, 2 steals, 8 rebounds. Still giving good energy and trying and everything like that. So really appreciate that from Nia Coffey. And again, I'm always just so surprised, that the Dream kind of let her go, especially with some of the issues that they have right now. But, I guess we'll see how everything plays out so far. But I guess we'll see how everything shakes out moving forward. Kayla McBride gave you 12 points, 4 assists. She also struggled from the floor. And so, they could be better. They've exceeded expectations, but, the Mist really made them work for it. And those closing minutes, they just have to be better. They got to be able to close out games without, giving some possessions away. Lastly, for Sunday games, we had Liberty versus Sparks. The Sparks beat the Liberty 98-97. That game came down to the wire, but really great game. Ray Burrell had some good takes and makes this game. She's attacking well and finishing through the contact, getting to the free throw line. I really like the effort that I'm seeing from Ray Burrell right now. I know that sometimes I'd be a little critical of her, but I think it's really just because we see her play so well and unrivaled, and you want to see her be able to duplicate that success here in 5-on-5. NECA also had a great game. She, hit the game winner in the 30th anniversary game, which was really fun, and I thought was a really cool concept. Those are 2 teams that have been in the league for since the league started. So that was really fun. And to, see them in their replica retro jerseys, very fun. But yeah, NECA, great this game. Watching her score and get creative with her footwork. It felt like an all-around mastery of the game on display for her, and that was really fun. So if you weren't able to watch the game, definitely go back and maybe view the highlights or something. Down to the wire, like I said, NECA hit the game winner. Sparks outscored the Liberty in the second half and beat them in the paint 60-42. The Liberty struggled with turnovers, finishing the game with 16 to the Sparks 9. For the Liberty, Brianna Stewart gave you 18 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and was 8 of 17 from the field. John Quell gave you 18 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, was 6 of 9 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3. Pauline Astier gave you 17 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, and was 4 of 5 from the field. Maureen Johannes gave you 10 points, 2 rebounds. Satu gave you 14 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, and Phoebus gave you 13 points. For the Sparks, they're without Cameron Brink, of course, but still put on a phenomenal game and, went out there to compete. I think this is the game where Kelsey kind of had the lower leg injury. She played through it, but you could I think she had her leg wrapped at the beginning, but then it was fully wrapped, thigh, knee, and all, by the second half. And, you hate to see her go down. Kelsey Plum is one of my favorite players, so this is really unfortunate, but I'm hoping that the Sparks are able to, play through the adversity and figure some things out, just because I do want Kelsey Plum to be able to win and compete for something. But right now it's looking pretty bad. It is. But this game in particular, they won. So who am I? Anyways, Nneka Ogwumike gave you 24 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and was 11 of 18 from the field. Ray Burrell gave you 19 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, and was 5 of 10 from the field. Got to the line and made them pay, and she hit all of her free throws. She was 7 of 7 from the free throw line. Erica Wheeler gave you 15 points, 5 assists, was 6 of 11 from the field. Kelsey Plum gave you 12 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds. Dearica Hamby gave you 12 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and was 6 of 12 from the field. Definitely one of her better showings so far this season. And Ariel Atkins finally gave us some offense, 10 points, 4 assists, and 2 blocks. On Monday, there were 4 games. The first was Sky versus Sun. The Sun beat the Sky 92-63. Yes, you heard that right. Blowout win for Connecticut. The Sky were in the game until they weren't. They just weren't able to keep up offensively with the Sun, but also the Sun were just like, they were just shooting them. And it was like everything that they shot was going in. They were making the right decisions, beating their defenders off the dribble. It was honestly like beautiful basketball for them, and I'm happy to see, things kind of working out for the Sun. When this team is healthy and shots are falling, they're great. And, like I said before, I know there's like a lot of uncertainty because, you are going to be getting a new coach and a new GM, and things are going to look very different from this season to next season. But I love the heart and hustle of this team, and they are the underdogs, but I hope that they're able to string some wins together. The Sky are already a team that kind of struggle against dribble penetration, but I think also just in terms of matchups for their bigs, I think the Sun, when they're healthy, offer really tough matchups. So it was just really hard for them. The Sun were just getting out in transition. And you could just see the youth on this team and how it was on their side this game. Easily one of Connecticut's best games so far this season. Like I said before, I hope they can use this game as momentum and start putting some wins together. The Sky aren't terrible. They can hang with the best of them on most nights. I think this was just like a really tough game, mentally, like you had just played really, really hard and put together a really decent game of basketball a few nights prior versus the Wings, but you weren't able to get that win. And, you kind of maybe go in thinking, okay, we're going to get this win versus the Sun, and the Sun, they go and do this and they have an amazing night. So I think like it's just tough, but, the Sky were able to get a win later on versus the Fire, and we'll discuss that a bit. Not really, just like, because that game just is not even really worth talking about. We were going to talk about it a little bit. Anyways, for the Sun, they just demolished them on the boards, 49-28. Paint points, they beat them 52-24. Outside of turnovers, they did everything better than the Sky. Camilla gave you 16 points, 14 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and was 6 of 12 from the field. Azariah Stevens gave you 11 points, 3 rebounds. Sydney Taylor gave you 10 points and 2 assists. And then Skylar and Natasha combined for 7 points. Just really tough. It was a tough one for the Sky, and I think this really low really helped them catapult to the top later on this week. For the Sun, amazing game. Very excited to talk about these stats here. Brittany Griner gave you 14 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 blocks, and was 6 of 10 from the field. She was an excellent facilitator this game. And I don't know. I'm just really happy to see Brittany Griner healthy, but also playing great basketball and still being impactful in wins. Charlize Ledger-Walker gave you 13 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. LaCon gave you 12 points, 3 steals, and was 5 of 6 from the field. Olivia Nelson-Ododa gave you 11 points, 15 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and was 4 of 8 from the field. Again, great performance from her. And had Marina not had that 53-point game, I probably would have given Player of the Week to Olivia Nelson-Ododa. And then Aaliyah Edwards gave you 11 points, 5 rebounds, and was 4 of 5 from the field. Next, we have Tempo versus Dream. The Dream beat the Tempo 94-87. Niara Sabali was in foul trouble early in the first. But while I was watching this game, I really like her game. She looks really comfortable with the ball, and she has some great footwork. I like the shots that she's taking. And, obviously she played well in New York. She was a pivotal piece in them winning that championship. I still feel pain from that. Anyways, but she's really great, and I'm excited and happy that she's healthy, and I'm very excited to see what the Tempo are going to be able to do in the coming weeks. Medina Okot had a strong game, provided some good minutes off the bench, and the Dream were up 20 towards the end of the third quarter. They kind of let it slip in the fourth, but they were still able to pull out the win. But it was a close battle in the paint by both teams, but the Dream were able to beat them in the paint 50-38, and at second chance points 18-6. I think the Tempo also just kind of struggled to take care of the ball, but it was still a really great effort. And they attempted to come back in this game, and if they had a little bit more time, or if that run had started a little bit earlier, I definitely think it would have been tighter, and maybe they were able to pull out the win. For the Tempo, Marina gave you 23 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and was 8 of 17 from the field. Izzy Harrison gave you 21 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, and was 7 of 16 from the field. Timmy Fagbenle gave you 10 points, 2 rebounds, and was in foul trouble. Niara Sabali gave you 9 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 blocks. For the Dream, Ryan gave you 20 points, 7 rebounds, and was 7 of 17 from the field, 5 of 11 from 3. Alicia Gray gave you 18 points, 3 assists, and 5 steals. Medina Okot gave you 18 points, 7 rebounds, and was 7 of 9 from the field. Jordan Canada gave you 11 points, 13 assists, 2 steals, and was 4 of 8 from the field. And Angel gave you 11 points and 9 rebounds. Next, we have Mercury versus Fever. The Fever beat the Mercury 86-77. In the first quarter, the Fever started out scoring 6 points in the first. They came out in the second quarter with high intensity and were able to get back in the game. The Mercury's offense honestly just isn't good enough for their defense to be as bad as it is at times, and I think that's obviously something that hurt them this game. It was a very chippy game. I think the refs needed to reel some of this stuff in a little bit earlier so it didn't get to the point that it did. But the Mercury were shorthanded and struggled to continue playing well in the second half. They also struggled to defend without fouling. For the Mercury, Kalia Copper gave you 20 points, 3 rebounds, and was 6 of 14 from the field. And Alyssa Thomas gave you 19 points, 5 rebounds, 9 assists, and was 8 of 12 from the field. For the Fever, Caitlin gave you 24 points, 9 assists, 3 rebounds, and was 8 of 17 from the field. Kelsey Mitchell gave you 22 points. And Monique Billings gave you 14 points, 10 rebounds, and was 4 of 4 from the field. And this was a tough night for Aaliyah Boston in, this matchup. It's nothing more. All right, next we have Wings versus Storm. The Wings beat the Storm 112-110. Very evenly matched on the boards. The Storm have some great front court players in Dominique Malonga and Awafam, and I'm very excited to see them continue to develop as, they continue on. This is such a tight game because, again, I think the Wings do struggle a bit in the post. And, they're down Alana Smith and everything, but they were still able to pull out the win. Paige actually really cooked in this game and sent it to overtime. This was a huge game for the Storm. Zaya Cook came out big in overtime to take the lead, but they just weren't able to, close it. Paige made sure of that. AZ had played 40-plus minutes, and, there's a conversation to be had there about usage and other people kind of needing to step up a bit in their performances, but still very strong game from AZ and Paige, and you can really see why they drafted her and how well they played together. The Wings outscored the Storm in the paint 62-44. Damn, that's crazy. Anywho, for the Wings, Paige gave you 27 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and was 12 of 23 from the field. AZ gave you 26 points, 3 rebounds, 4 steals, and was 11 of 17 from the field. Isaiah James gave you 18 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and was 7 of 11 from the field. Jessica Shepard gave you 14 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, and was 7 of 13. Leah Rue came in, and she was pretty clutch. She was clutch when you needed her the most. Yeah, she was clutch when you needed her the most, and she gave you 10 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and was 4 of 6 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. For the Storm, Dominique Malonga had an amazing night, giving you 37 points, 12 rebounds, 2 blocks, and was 14 of 24 from the field. Natisha Heidemann also had a great night. Not as efficient from the field, but sort of, kind of. She gave you 21 points, 11 assists, 4 rebounds, and was 9 of 19 from the field. Awafam gave you 18 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, and was 6 of 8 from the field. Zaya Cook, again, had an amazing game, 18 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and was 6 of 12 from the field. And Flage gave you 11 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals. On Tuesday, there was only one game, Liberty versus Aces, and this is going to be the same matchup as the Commissioner's Cup coming up on Tuesday. I think the Aces are winning that. I think that they were trying to play mind games with the Liberty in this game to keep them off, you know what I'm saying? To keep them like their guard down so that they can go ahead and take the Commissioner's Cup and get the bonus. Follow me, follow me. Anyways, the Liberty beat the Aces 87-76. I think the Aces they shot a lot of threes and that wasn't working pretty early on. I think they shot 8 of 27 for the entirety of the game, and that's not great. Obviously, Sabrina, she's been driving more and attacking the paint, and I think that's been really great for her game. The Aces were never really able to match the Liberty's intensity on both ends of the floor. They tried to come back in the fourth, but didn't really have enough to do that. The Aces couldn't defend without fouling, and after this game and the way, they responded after losing to the Wings last week and then the win that they got this week versus the Wings, I'm excited for the Commissioner's Cup game, and, I'm ready to see a battle. Hopefully, Breanna Stewart will be playing, and it'll just be really fun, a really great matchup, and yeah, I'm ready to see everything come together. I think it's going to be a very exciting Commissioner's Cup game this year. For the Liberty, Breanna Stewart gave you 20 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, and was 7 of 16 from the field. Sabrina gave you 16 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. Jonquel gave you 14 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and was 5 of 8 from the field. Phoebish gave you 12 points and was 4 of 7. And then Hanzu gave you 12 points, 2 rebounds, and was 4 of 4 from the field. For the Aces, Jackie was a leading scorer, giving you 19 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, and was 9 of 19 from the field. Asia gave you 16 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals. Cheyenne Parker-Tyus came off the bench, giving you 14 points, 6 rebounds, and was 5 of 7 from the field. And Chelsea Gray gave you 11 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, and was 4 of 8 from the field. On Wednesday, let me go ahead and just first of all say this. The first 2 games were nice and competitive, but then the second half happened, and there was a lot of disappointment for me as a viewer. Like, I actually cut both of these games off early because I was just absolutely in disbelief by the Fire and the Dream not being able to even compete with the opposing team. Very, very distasteful showing. I was disappointed, and I'm expecting better in whatever games either of them play next. But the beginning games, those first 2, those are pretty good. The first, Mercury versus Fever, this time the Mercury responded to losing to the Fever in their first matchup, 111-109. There were opportunities where they almost sold the game, but they were able to pull it out. The Mercury kept it close in the first half. DeWanna Bonner had a big second quarter. Phoenix doesn't have much to work with, so they definitely needed that boost from her. Marta Suarez had some timely buckets and played good minutes. They had a few opportunities to put it away earlier, but like I said, they sold it, but still came out with the win. Phoenix won the battle in the paint 42-48, and Phoenix made them pay off of turnovers. I think they had like 25 points off turnovers or something. Anyways, for the Mercury, no Natasha Mack, no Akoa Makani. Again, still, Sammy Whitcomb's not healthy yet. They're without Yvonne Nokic, whose contract has been suspended. And, they made the most with what they had. Kalia Copper had a great night, giving you 28 points, 3 rebounds, and was 6 of 10 from the field. Alyssa Thomas gave you 24 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds, and was 12 of 17 from the field. Ayayi gave you 19 points, 3 rebounds, and was 5 of 8 from the field. DeWanna Bonner gave you 13 points and 8 rebounds. Broshawn gave you 12 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, and was 5 of 9 from the field again. A great player. I really want to see more minutes from her. An honorable mention to Marta Suarez, who had 6 points and was 3 of 4 from the field. For the Fever, Kelsey had a better showing tonight. with 30 points, 6 assists, and 2 steals, and was 11 of 16 from the field, 7 of 9 from 3. Very efficient night for her. Aaliyah Boston gave you 23 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and was 9 of 16 from the field. Definitely better showing than the last game. And Caitlin, she ended up leaving in the third quarter, but she gave you 19 points, 8 assists, and was 5 of 9 from the field. Maisha Hines gave you 13 points, 5 rebounds, and an honorable mention to Raven Johnson, who played, I don't really know how many minutes she played, but she gave you 7 assists and 5 rebounds. Next game we have is the rematch of Lynx versus Mystics. And the Lynx beat the Mystics 78-76. This one came down to the wire. It was a very good game. In game 2, Nia Coffey was in foul trouble early, didn't play much in the second quarter, and her absence was felt. Lynx had a lot of turnovers, just struggling to take care of the ball, and also struggling to shoot. I think they were 1 of 10 from the field with 4 minutes left in the third quarter, and it was starting to look a bit sloppy, and I was starting to get very nervous for them. The Mystics looked great on defense and offense, good help side defense out of the half as well. Lynx post was in foul trouble, and they were just kind of struggling to hit shots down the stretch. They put some good possessions together to take the lead. Miles, she had 10 points in the fourth quarter again. She did struggle at the beginning of the game, but was able to kind of turn things around in the fourth quarter. And then at the end, Shakira had the opportunity, I believe, to either tie the game or to take the lead. And, she took a bad shot. And she's hit the shot before. It's just like, it just wasn't the time. It wasn't the time to go for the 3. And, it was just tough. It's been like a tough time for Shakira so far. I think she had a good game earlier in that first game versus the Lynx, but it's been a little bit tough, but I'm hoping to see her figure it out because like I said before, like she's a good player and has, played well and unrivaled, and she has her games here and there. I think we just want to see that a little bit more consistently. But the Lynx had some rough scoring periods, and so did the Mystics, but they were able to get their lick back for the gays. Okay, shout out to Cheryl Reeve. Shout out for that. That was a great quote. Anyways, and the history behind that quote, she said that at the press conference after this game, because the game that they played earlier on Sunday, it was a home game in Target Center, and it was also Pride Night, so they lost that game, and then, it was Pride Night at the Mystics home game on that Wednesday, so, they were able to get it back in blood. Okay, purr. But for the Lynx, Natasha Howard gave you 21 points, 15 rebounds, 3 assists, and were 7 of 13 from the field. Olivia Miles gave you 21 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, struggled from the field, but was able to help close it out. Again, it's that pizza pie layup. I would like to see a little bit, see her get a little more creative with it. I think it's going to be great. I think that's the really awesome thing about Courtney Williams is during that championship run versus the Liberty, the Liberty defense had figured out, kind of how to stop her. And so she kind of had to go deeper in her bag. And when we saw how deep her bag was, it was honestly very phenomenal. So I think, if we see Olivia kind of working on some different finishes and, countering some of the defense that she sees on that layup. Again, really quick first step. And then we just kind of need to see, her try some different things, but she's still contributing and, a part of wins. For Kayla McBride, she gave you 19 points, 6 rebounds, and was 7 of 18 from the field. And then this is the game where, I saw Tierra kind of giving up on some of the defensive plays. And, again, we wish her the best of luck, but it's just going to have to be away from my team moving forward. I'm so sorry. Anyways, for the Mystics, Sonia Citron gave you 28 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and was 9 of 14 from the field. Kiki Ariafin gave you 13 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, and was 5 of 10 from the field. And Shakira Austin had a pretty decent game, actually. This time, 11 points, 16 rebounds, and 3 assists. It was that last shot. It was that last one. Anyways, next we have Fire versus Sky. I turned this game off pretty early just because I could see the writing on the wall with this one. I'm going to be linking an article that I read earlier this morning about how the coach, Alex Sarama, for the Fire has kind of discussed, the culture and, how he's coaching this team. First of all, it has been 7 days since Portland has played basketball, and it looked exactly like that. I felt like Frida just got a lot of minutes, and they weren't very productive minutes. And I just don't understand that. I don't get it. Like I read the article and I'm hearing what he's saying. It doesn't make sense to me right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to give it a chance. I'm trying to see it. I just don't love that the coach will just give extended minutes to lineups that aren't working, regardless of, I understand like you wanting the players to, get reps in and, learn and all this stuff. And it's just like, I don't know. I'm interested to see if this works long term. I just like, it's very frustrating basketball to watch, and it's very frustrating decision making, especially when you have a player like Sarah Williams, who I think only played like 7 minutes this game, and she was 3 of 3 from the field. And I know that sometimes she gives up size, because while she's tall, like she is smaller, and I understand that, but it's kind of like, why are we not giving the opportunity to like all the players? Like Nadia Potts struggled this game, and Bridget struggled to score this game, and I don't know, like it's just very weird to me. Like, and I obviously, like, I'm ready for people to disagree, and I read the article and I'm putting it in the description and everything, and you can watch it, and I've watched the post-game pressers of him talking about rebounding, and I've watched Meg and Sarah Ashley Barker talk about, the things that they need to do better and stuff like that. And I also felt like Taya Oblak not playing many minutes while other people were struggling to score, and while Carla was also kind of struggling to facilitate against, a reputable defense that Chicago has. I don't know. I'm just like very confused by what Portland has going on. And it's like, I kind of understand it in theory, but again, like not being able to see it in practice. And I will say, I think it's great and amazing that the front office and the coaching staff and everything, like everybody believes in each other. And I do think that having the confidence in players is a big part of winning. And we saw that last year with, how Natalie Nakase was speaking life into her players. It's just like, I don't know. I would just really like to see them play better. And it's just like very jarring to see them like struggle the way that they do at times. And especially like they're kind of on a losing skid. I know that people have said that they're not in a win now situation. And like, I get what you're saying, but they are trying to get to the playoffs. And, in order to do that, we do have to play better. And I don't know. I'm going to let that rock for right now. I'm not even going to try to sit and understand it. It's whatever, man. But, for the Fire, Megan Gustafson gave you 17 points. Sarah Ashley Barker gave you 13 points. And Emily and Carla combined for 20 points. For the Sky, all starters were in double digits, and I think this also just came down to, obviously, like, them not rebounding well. And I'm very interested in that, because the Portland coach and the players are like, it's on the guards to go in and get rebounds. I'm like, I think, yeah, it's on everybody to get rebounds, I just, and, this is a team that does give up size. I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyways, this is a great game for JC. Y'all know that that's one of my clients since her time in Dallas. I really enjoy watching her play, and I've enjoyed, watching her game evolve, and, to see her confidence kind of shift and see her taking more shots. So yeah, shout out to JC Sheldon, and also Letitia Trammell. Sister, get ready for that head coaching position. Okay, get ready for that head coaching position. They had her mic'd up. I was like, mic'd up loud T. It's Tyler, the saxophones are loud as hell. Actually, it's not even saxophones. It's just an orchestra. So it's time for you to put some wins together after this, sir. Or that job, you're clipped. Anyways, for the Sky, Skylar Diggins gave you 15 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, and was 5 of 10 from the field. Sydney Taylor gave you 14 points, 4 assists, and was 5 of 8 from the field. JC Sheldon gave you 14 points, 3 assists, and was 6 of 12 from the field. Camila Cardoso gave you 13 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and was 6 of 7 from the field. Gabriela Jaquez gave you 10 points and 5 rebounds. Okay, pretty good stuff. Last game, Dream versus Valkyries. The Valkyries beat the Dream 77-66. And I cut this one off early too. I'm going to tell you something. The Dream did not come to play this game. They did not. They had 31 points by the third quarter. And that's when I was like, y'all can't be serious. I thought it was a malfunction. It was not. I don't know. I think this just comes down to like, if they want to be contenders for a championship, games like this can't happen, especially against teams that play good defense, because this is like the stuff that you're going to see in the playoffs. And, you know, I can sit here and attempt to defend this level of play and, you know, chalk it up to, oh, Bree Jones and we're giving up size and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, every night you have to at least show up and be able to match that intensity. And like every night, and, you know, it's kind of like if you can't do that right now in the season, it like leads me to question, you know, whether or not this is going to be like the same thing that it's been for the Dream when it comes to the playoffs. You know, like, are you guys going to show up every night? Because that's what it takes to win a championship. And I don't know. I'm interested to see where it goes from here. This is definitely not their best showing. They were able to clean it up and they kind of tried to make a run and come back towards the end of the game, and rightfully so, because the Valkyries, I think, were shooting like 2 of 13 from the field in the fourth. But, you know, ultimately they just weren't able to do that. I'm going to give Medina Okot her flowers. She played amazing this game. She had 16 points and 5 rebounds and was 7 of 9 from the field. And then there's not really any more notable like performances from this group. I have here that Ryan and Angel combined for 22 points. But again, you know, that's just like not good enough. And yeah, expecting more from the Dream, especially because they put up some great showings. And I think that they can be better than this. Next up for the Valkyries, we have Gabby Williams, who gave you 23 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and was 9 of 16 from the field. Kayla Thornton had a really great night from 3. She gave you 17 points, 5 rebounds, and was 6 of 12 from the field, 5 of 10 from 3. And, you know, I'm happy to see that Kayla is having, you know, better shooting nights, especially because that first season with the Valkyries, she was playing so well before she was injured. And, you know, obviously it takes some time to get back in rhythm and to get back to the player that you were before. So, you know, very pleased with this performance from her. Chechi Zandalicini gave you 14 points, 3 assists, and was 4 of 6 from 3. Veronica Burton gave you 8 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, and was 3 of 5 from the field. On Thursday, there were 3 games. We're kicking it off with Sparks versus Tempo. The Tempo beat the Sparks 125-97. They broke the record for most points scored in a game, highest number of points in WNBA history. And, like, it's just so insane to me that the Sparks allowed the Tempo to score 125 points. That's so crazy and almost unheard of. Sorry, my apologies if you're hearing my father cut the grass right now. The Sparks allowed 63 points from the Tempo in the first half, and Marina tied with Asia and Liz for highest scoring games. There was no Kelsey, Plum, or Cameron Brink this game. Very disappointing, honestly, showing. No Kelsey or Cameron this game. It was just a very disappointing like showing from the Sparks in general for me. Terrible defense all around. And, you know, I'll continue with this sentiment that the coach needs to be fired unless, you know, some things change. But honestly, the more that I look at this roster, I'm just like I'm less and less impressed as the week goes on. You know, obviously you have some players who are coming in and they're trying, and then, you know, there are some players that it feels like they're kind of quitting and giving up really early on in the game, and even like quitting and not showing up fully on defense. I'm just expecting some of these players to step up, and I think it's also like on the coach to motivate your team to want to do that for you. And I'm interested to see, you know, obviously, like I said before, where she goes from here with it. The Sparks lost the battle on the boards 52-30. I'm happy to see a healthy post from the Tempo, as I've stated previously. Overall, the Tempo just shot the ball better than the Sparks. For the Sparks, they only put up 39 points in the first half. Derica Hamby had a better showing, giving you 21 points, 9 rebounds, 3 steals, and was 7 of 13 from the field. Nneka Ogwumike gave you 21 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. And I didn't put it in here, but I believe that Ray was also a player who showed up. I don't know why I didn't put the stats, but she definitely played hard this game. And, those are the three players that kind of stepped up and showed up and continued to, put in effort. And I would really, really, really love to see that from everyone else on the roster. I'm also very confused by Tanaya Latson not being played in a blowout game until like the last 2 minutes. It's very strange to me that, the coach wouldn't try everything to kind of cut the deficit in those moments. And I just I don't know, I'm just not liking like her management of the game. I don't know. I get it, typically rookies don't get minutes, but in a blowout like that, like the game is almost designed for you to put them in and get them some reps and allow them to see, what some higher end defenses look like, and just feeling them out and even just trying some different lineups. I don't know what this lady's doing. She's giving me that she is not qualified for the job. But some people who need to play better are definitely Erica Wheeler and Ariel Atkins. They had a great night the other day versus the Liberty, and it's I understand that Kelsey Plum is not there to help facilitate and do all these things, but it is these are players who have been in the league for a while now and, have had experience with the ball in their hands, and so I'm expecting more. And, not seeing that from them, not seeing them meet the moment and, come in with a certain level of intensity, I can't even... Wow. I can't even imagine what it's like to be a fan at a time like this for the Sparks. Right now, I think also that trade with Chicago is even more and more questionable. Obviously, Rickea Jackson got hurt, but even when Kelsey Plum is playing and played in that Valkyries game a week ago, this team struggled to score. And it's I don't understand the roster construction, honestly. It feels like the plan was just to have KP score 30, 40 points a night, and then, we'll figure that'll just be it. We go out there and we just shoot. And the defense is terrible. It's awful. It just doesn't help that they can't even stay in games offensively. And they kind of have a similar issue as the Mercury. I do think that the Mercury definitely still go out there and give you effort, though. That's one thing that you can't say that the Mercury don't do. Even when they're losing games, they still go out there and they give it their best. So, the Sparks need to have a little come to Jesus moment. And if, we heard about a little team get together where, they talk about a little team meeting, that would be the right option in my mind. But they definitely need some trades. But they're playing so poorly that I don't really know if they can even get anything or get rid of these pieces for something else. I don't know, man. Very strange situation going on over there in LA. But for the tempo, Marina Mabrey put on a masterclass. And like I've said before, she's really impressed me since the Brittany Sykes injury. And, like I said, I think that she definitely needs to be an all-star in this all-star game coming up. She gave you 53 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and was 7 of 28 from the field, 9 of 18 from 3, and 10 of 12 from the free throw line. Really, Allemande had an amazing game. Honestly, a perfect game. I don't think that Marina has the night that she does without Julie for sure. But, I ended up hearing in the halftime report that Julie Allemande said that she wanted to be not protected by the Sparks. She wanted to be going to an expansion team and figuring it out somewhere else. And I think that says so much about whatever the hell the Sparks have going on. I think that says so much. But she had a phenomenal night, 13 points, 14 assists, 6 rebounds, 3 steals, 1 block, and was 4 of 4 from the field, 3 of 3 from 3, I believe. Maria Conde gave you 13 points, 7 rebounds, and was 4 of 8 from the field. Yuskaida gave you 10 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 assists. Post players combined for 18 points and 16 rebounds. Next, we have Liberty versus Storm. The Storm beat the Liberty 99-88. The Storm came out aggressive to start the first quarter and stuck with the Liberty throughout the game. This is honestly a really exciting game. Nothing the Storm could do about Jonquel's size when it came to scoring, but it was also weird because Steph Dolson is a player that I think that you could put in the game and she match up well with her, but she's just not as fast or as threatening as Awa or Dom. So, she was getting fouls called. It was just a lot going on. But for the Liberty, I will say this. I just don't think that Chris DeMarco is that great of a coach. Obviously they've been winning games recently, but I think that has more to do with Stewie and what she demands from her teammates in games than it does with like Chris DeMarco and his X's and O's. But, I guess we'll see how it shakes out. Obviously it's his first year coaching here, but right now I'm just not very impressed. And it, in a way, feels like the Liberty also don't know how to win without Stewie. Like, Sabrina, like I said before, I'm very confused by like what the vision is for her role and what her role is on this team. Like, on one hand, I feel like the clock is ticking on her proving that she can be a number one option. Stewie's getting older, and it's just time for us to see that from her. And she's coming back from injury, so I'm really, like I said before, I'm going to give her grace. But when the front office is kind of talking about their reasoning for not bringing Natasha Cloud back, and it being because, she's not the right fit. And, maybe I wasn't like super over the top, like impressed by her performances for the Liberty. But when you say that she's not the right fit for Sabrina and she's not the right guard to pair with Sabrina, and like that's fair to say. But now there's like an odd thing happening where she is the point guard, and that's fine. But it also, like, I'm just very confused by the mixed messaging. It's like, do you want her to be a playmaker and a scorer, or do you want her to like play off ball, or like I'm very confused, because it seemed that the implication from them saying that they weren't signing Natasha back was because, like she wasn't good next to Sabrina, and like you can argue or whatever, but like I don't know. I'm starting to wonder like if there is a good pairing for her, and I'm just very conflicted by it. Now, I will say that I like her attacking the paint more. She hasn't really been shooting that well, but again, it is going to take her some time to kind of get back into the rhythm of things, and I'm going to give her like some time and grace to do that. But, it even comes down to how Marine plays and how the people around her play when she is on the floor, because I don't know, like, if people aren't taking shots because they're trying to make sure that Sabrina gets her shots, but it's also like Sabrina isn't taking those shots. And it's kind of like there are some players that we've seen have the ball in their hands and they've been more productive like that. And I think Marina is a great example of that. When she's starting and she's, and they're playing without Sabrina, I feel that she is a bit more aggressive than when she is like, coming off the bench and playing with Sabrina. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's on the coach to put them both in the right positions for them to be successful and to, draw up the right plays for them. And I don't know if I think that, he's going to be doing that, at least not this season. Marina's like an offensive weapon, and I would really like to see it work for her and for them. So, I guess we'll see where this goes moving forward. But right now, I'm just confused by, what the hell is going on with this team.
Hi, this is Tori in editing. I wanted to clarify something. I wanted it to be known that, okay, well, first of all, I tweeted this same sentiment on Twitter, and somebody was like, well, Sabrina never said that she was the number one option or she was the best player. And I'm not saying that she did say that. What I'm saying is that watching the games, I'm confused by what her role is and what the front office is attempting to do, because the words aren't like matching the action. And again, she's coming back from injury, so I'm holding space for that and giving her grace. But like, it's disingenuous to say that, because it's very obvious that the Liberty front office has been looking for somebody who can complement Sabrina and her play style. And I'm still confused and questioning like what they envision for her, but it's obvious that they're attempting to build this team around her, and they want her to stay here long term. And I don't know. I just wanted to make sure that I'm clarifying that, and that I'm saying that right now she isn't playing like, and Chris DeMarco isn't putting her in the position to be playing like a number one option. And like, I think that the whole point of all of this is for her to be stepping into that position, because Brianna Stewart is eventually going to retire and this will be Sabrina's team, and she's going to have to, step up for that. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I was clarifying that.
I'll also add that for this game, the Liberty players just really struggled tonight. And like, this is no shade to the Storm, because I really like the Storm. And I feel like, I'm happy for them that they got the win. And this was definitely well deserved. They went out there and they played hard and they played the right way. But this Liberty team is just far too good for them to be, losing to a team like this. Like a lot of teams that are contending for something have been able to beat this team. And even teams that aren't contending for something have been able to beat this team. So, it calls into question some things. And, I don't know. I just think that this loss kind of falls a little bit more on the coach than it does any individual player. But, he's got to put his players in the right position, to get going. So I'm interested to see how, he figures that out moving forward. The Storm beat the Liberty on the boards 39-28. And they beat them in the paint 54-42, which is crazy because, it was like Jonquel was doing what she wanted, but also, Domino, while like they get up and down the floor really well. And Jonquel, she kind of struggles a little bit more in that area. So I guess, I'm interested to see that matchup again, especially with Stewie on the floor. So I'm excited for that. The Storm also beat the Liberty in fast break points 21-4. And the Storm shot the ball better from the field and at the free throw line. For the Liberty, Jonquel Jones gave you 26 points, 8 rebounds, and was 10 of 17 from the field. Fevich gave you 19 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and was 6 of 12 from the field. Sabrina gave you 14 points, 5 assists, and was 5 of 12 from the field. For the Storm, Flau'jae Johnson gave you 28 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and was 11 of 23 from the field. Dominique Malonga gave you 20 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, and was 9 of 12 from the field. Awa Fam gave you 15 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and was 6 of 9 from the field. Jade Melvin came back this game and gave you 18 points, 7 assists, 2 steals, and was 6 of 11 from the field. And Natisha Heidemann actually struggled a bit this game, only giving you 11 points, 3 assists, 2 steals, and was 5 of 12 from the field. Last game, Wings versus Aces. The Aces really responded this game after losing to them last week. And the Aces just came out aggressive to start the game. The Wings had some silly fouls on Jackie towards the end of the first, and that sent her to the free throw line, and she's always going to hit those and capitalize on those opportunities. AZ's defense has been like just a really big bright spot for the Wings for the entirety of the season, even when she wasn't playing like that many minutes. Like, that's where, I feel like she earned her minutes. And ever since then, she's shooting well and she's knocking down shots. She's being unselfish and she's just playing the right way. And I would just love to see some other players consistently put in that same intensity on defense and help AZ out. You know what I'm saying? The Wings didn't play very good defense as a whole. Maybe a few possessions here and there, but they just have to be better there, especially, like if they want to, be in the playoffs and get that experience. I think they're going to have to be able to compete with a big name like the Aces. The Aces beat them on the boards 35-24. The Wings' 3-point shot was just not there at all last night, unfortunately. That's typically how they win games as well. So when the shot isn't there, it's like, so what are we doing to, combat that? But also the Aces did a really great job of clogging the paint and not really allowing them to attack the rim as much as they like. Dallas had more points in the paint, 52-40. Also, their bench just didn't really contribute much, at least not as much as Vegas's did. And in a way, I think the Aces just had to respond after losing to them last week, and they came out and handled business. In the third quarter, Dallas trimmed the lead to 4 points, but ultimately were never able to get beyond that. And then, the lead grew. For the Wings, Paige gave you 25 points, 6 assists, 2 rebounds, was 11 of 19 from the field. And I really liked that, she didn't force the issue on shooting the threes. I really liked her getting back to taking mid-range shots, attacking the paint, doing stuff like that. And, eventually sometimes those shots opening her up on the beyond the arc. Jessica Shepard, I really liked that she didn't force the issue, like attempting to shoot all those threes after, kind of recognizing that they weren't falling and the shot wasn't there. I have really enjoyed, watching her, take those mid-range shots and attack the paint. I really think that it helps open up her game beyond the arc. So that was really, really, really nice to see her not forcing it. I just wish, that they would have been able to kind of pull out the game. But Arike really struggled this game as well. Jessica Shepard gave you 22 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, and was 8 of 11 from the field. And like I have here in my notes, Arike had a rough night. Nobody else was really able to give you more than 8 points. And, obviously you just can't win games that way. But there are conversations that I'm hearing a lot of Wings fans have that obviously they've been trying to have since the beginning of the season started. But I think it's interesting. I was talking to Alex, who's, somebody who's a part of like the community over on TikTok a lot. And I think she watched the podcast. Honestly, I don't know. But she was they were all just kind of, spitballing some things about who they could get for Arike. And I know some of them were talking about getting Ezzy from the Storm. And like, I don't like hate that because I agree that the Storm do need some consistent shooting. And obviously like Arike would help with that. But it's like, I also don't know if like the Storm front office, Ezzy signed a contract for 1 year. And maybe she's looking to leave now that, they're kind of pivoting to a rebuild. But I do think that the Storm need a vet big who can go and get rebounds, especially when, they need to rest Awa or Dom. And unfortunately, I don't think that Steph Dolson is really having the season that they expected. And I think that they really need Ezzy. And I think that she's going to be great for them. And I hope that, she maybe wants to continue on with them. But I don't know. I just don't. I don't know if like the Storm are looking for an Arike style player, especially like when we're talking about having a Flage who they are going to be building around. And I know that Arike has, especially like before the season started, when she was signing her contracts and everything was happening in free agency, she said, after Unrivaled, she's not looking to come off the bench. And I think that there's a conversation to be had there. I think I had even told Alex, like, I think the Valkyries could be a good landing spot for her because they do struggle to be consistent, but it's also, that's still like the same issue because she is someone who is ball dominant and needs it. And I don't know that like I don't know if Natalie Nakase would like have a ton of belief in her buying in totally to being defensive minded first. And, obviously sharing the ball and ball movement. So I don't really know. I feel bad because I like Arike and, this is just like a tough position to be in. But I do think that, at some point it's either like she has to have the conversation with herself about, coming in off the bench. And I think that she could be a great role player on some of these contending teams. But, she would have to have that conversation, with herself about her play style and what it needs to look like and the adjustments that need to be made in order for her to win. And I don't know, it's just very interesting. And obviously people were talking about, her being benched in the overtime versus the Storm game. I don't know. I feel like the Wings are in a tricky spot because they gave her a pretty fat contract. And, there are some games now more recently where she seems hesitant to shoot the ball. But then there are also some times when she just like throws it off at the clip that she's used to. And I don't know. Obviously, she's a great talent and she's proven to be somebody who can show up in big moments. But when it comes to winning basketball and when it comes to, the evolving landscape of what Dallas is trying to do, it seems very obvious what they're trying to do. And it's kind of just going to be like, at some point, that's going to be like a tough conversation that needs to be had, or she's going to need to leave. And even if she does leave, it's still just kind of like, I don't know which teams are like, yeah, get us in here. Like, I think people are really looking for consistent players. And, with guards, younger guards coming in, like a Juju Watkins eventually, and like a Hannah Hidalgo or Michaela Blake's, these are players that are probably going to be consistent, and these teams are probably going to be building around. And so it's kind of like, where will you fit if you're not, willing to, change your perspective and kind of let I don't want to say her ego but I don't think of ego as a bad thing either. But like, it's kind of like, I think that her ego might have to take a back seat at some point if she does want to win something. Otherwise, she probably will be retiring without winning anything. So, that's a conversation to be had. Obviously, I hope that she's able to figure that out, and she, is able to be put in the right position and finds the right situation. But right now, the up and down play, I don't think it's going to, it just might not work out long term if this is like the result that we continue to get and see. But anyways, for the Aces, Asia gave you 32 points, 9 rebounds, and was 12 of 21 from the field. Jackie Young, big game, 20 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 of 6 from the field. 10 of 10 from the free throw line, I'm assuming. Oh, yeah, because I said the Wings struggled to defend without fouling, so she got sent to the line. And Trey Parker-Tyus came off the bench, giving you 13 points, 3 assists, and was 4 of 7 from the field. She's been really great off the bench, her next to Asia, or even just like her and Alyssa or Stephanie Talbot playing together. She's been really great. And then Chelsea Gray gave you 12 points, 9 assists, and was 5 of 11 from the field. And KB came off the bench, giving you 10 points and was 4 of 4 from the field. I know that people talk a lot of trash about her, but she came in and was efficient and helpful. So shout out to KB. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Feel free to get in the comments. Keep it classy and respectful. Okay, actually, no. But yeah, thanks guys so much for listening, watching, whatever you did. I appreciate you. Thank you for this continued support. Get in the comments, share your thoughts and opinions. Again, please keep it respectful. I will delete it, and I don't want to have to do that, but like I will. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.